welcome to CoreTV News at 4. I am Omotayo Alo. President Muhammad Buhari has described late General Murtala Mohammed as a leader who dedicated his life to the national growth of Nigeria. The president was given this description at the 40th memorial of the assassination of the late head of state. It says the death of General Mohammed is a great blow to the development of the country. Speaking at a memorial lecture, President Muhammad Buhari, who was the governor in the administration of late Murtala Mohammed, describes the killing as one that should never have taken place. General Theophilus Danjuma, an ally to the late head of state, says the coup prevented Murtala Mohammed from realizing his vision for Nigeria. For Aisha Mohammed Oyibode, who was just 12 years when her father was assassinated, says the spirit of the late head of state will be happy with the recent war against corruption. And ridding Nigeria completely of the Boko Haram scourge, this has become paramount to the Nigerian government, and partnering with the international community is another step. President Buhari is talking with the economic community of Central African states in that regard. Correspondent Abiola Uluwole has the details. We bring you details of that report later. Meanwhile, we'll move on to the fact that the Nigerian army assures that it is committed to institutionalizing the respect for human rights of civil-military cooperation in Nigeria. Acting Commandant, Nigerian Army Peacekeeping Center, Jaji Brigadier General Adamu Dauda, gave the assurance during the closing ceremony of a 5-day civil-military cooperation of human rights observance practical exercise from the Nigerian Armed Forces and all the security agencies organized by the Office of the National Security Advisor in Jaji, Kaduna State. Our correspondent has the details.
The acting commandant says the purpose of the exercise is to boost the capacity of the officers in respecting human rights of civilians in any communities they find themselves during operation, especially in crisis situation. Adamu says the participants conducted themselves to scenarios that were painted to test their ingenuity in bringing out great ideas on how to solve unexpected situations in the field. The commandant applauds the Office of the National Security Advisor for organizing this exercise to train members of the armed forces and the paramilitary agencies towards observing human rights and their obligations to the civil populace and civil-military cooperation.
Partly is to build capacity of the members of the armed forces and the paramilitary agencies towards observing human rights obligations to the civil populace and our civil-military cooperation. They were able to interact absolutely well with every member of the society within the community. They spoke very well to the Bulama. They also conducted themselves.
Also speaking, representative of the European Union says the EU brought in its experience it has gained from theaters of operations all around in civil-military operations.
In our CIMIC school in Lyons, and we very much support this idea of mixing human rights and CIMIC to train the Nigerian forces. We know your fight is very difficult in the Northeast, and we know human rights have been a bit of an issue in the past, and we very much want to do everything we can to help you on these matters.
Commodore Adamu Bio Abdul is the team leader. He speaks on the importance of the training.
Navy, we have participants for the training from the Army, from the Navy, and from the Nigerian Air Force, including police and the Department of State Security. I'm happy to tell you that we are able to look at the theoretical aspect of the training, bring everybody to steam, and from what you witnessed in theater, you have seen the successes of the live exercise as evident by the role play by the participants.
About 185 participants drawn from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, DSS, and some community leaders were trained in the exercise.
The Nigerian Air Force has established a Directorate of Civil Military Relations to earn and sustain support of the civil populace for its operations and activities. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the Director of Civil Military Relations of the Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Afam Chukwu, said the security challenges faced by the nation, especially in the northeast, requires a holistic approach by all Nigerians for the military to achieve sustainable success. The director also announced the establishment of a public information complaint desk in the directorate in order to smoothen outstanding rough edges and enhance the mutual benefit between the military and the civil populace. The federal government has made good its threat to unveil and punish all those involved in the Alibutton fraud, which made international headlines. Nigeria is said to have lost at least $26 million to corrupt officials in the I-Wire financial scandal, in which other key players from several countries have been sentenced to various jail terms and made to pay various sums and fines to their government. Dodo is being alleged to have received $4.5 million through his firm, Didi Dodo and Co., from the multinational firms involved in the Alibutton bribery scandal under the cover of legal fees. He is also alleged to have withdrawn over $2 million cash for purposes that the EFCC describes as unclear and in flagrant violation of extant money laundering regulations. On the other hand, Dodo states that he and 5 other top Nigerians only received payment for their legal services and nothing more. It discloses that the legal team even recovered over $200 million from the multinational firms involved in the bribery scandal and should be commended for their patriotic roles. The Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, says his men are on the trail of the Niger Delta militant leader, Mr. Government Ekpomokolo, alias Tompolo, over the allegation of diversion of public funds. Arase disclosed these during a tour of the Ekiti State Police Command, adding that the police will ensure they arrest him wherever he is sighted. Ekpomokolo has been declared wanted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over alleged diversion of a sum of 45.9 billion naira in the execution of contract. A federal high court in Lagos a couple of weeks ago issued a warrant of arrest against him as an order sought by EFCC to get the accused person to face justice. Tompolo, who is facing 40-count charge, is being tried alongside the ex-Director General of Nigerian Maritime Safety Agency, Patrick Apobolokemi, in connection with the alleged diversion of a sum of 45.9 billion naira in the execution of contracts. And also, the operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has arrested a mother of 3, Sadiat Bola Hassan, who is reported to have vomited about 15 wraps of white powdery substance that tested positive for cocaine at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. The 48-year-old suspect was apprehended at the central screening section of the departure hall during screening of passengers on an Egypt airline flight to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, en route Cairo, when officials of the anti-drug agency discovered that she had ingested 80 wraps of cocaine weighing 904 grams. Chairman of NDLEA, Mohammed Mustafa Abdallah, retired, who expressed satisfaction with our arrest, said that her action negates every principle of good parenting. And the wife of the Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 6, Aisha Bolata, has called on police officers' wives to be disciplined, industrious, and give continuous support to their husbands, as this will surely boost the performance of officers. Bolantan made this call when she paid a courtesy call on the Port Harcourt command of the Nigerian Police Force. Correspondent Nelson Ajay tells us more in this report presented from our studio.
The wife of the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Zone 6, in her familiarization tour to the police command in Port Harcourt, calls on wives of police officers to exhibit discipline, be enterprising, and give continuous support to their husbands, as this will surely boost the performance of the officers. She was on a tour of Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Calabar, Ebonyi, and River State to foster the bond of friendship, promote cordial relationship, and enhance unity among police officers' wives.
The association is an NGO program. We have workshops, seminars, we interact with each other, interact with other women, both locally and internationally. So that has been our program. The needy one, visit motherless, it has been the program, and it has been on. And it's not going to stop.
Bolanta says the Police Officers' Wives Association, POA, as a non-governmental organization, will always empower members.
I'm based in Lagos. I'm a businesswoman, but I make it point of duty anywhere I transfer my husband to. I make sure I visit him. I visit him, prepare good meals for him, I warm his bed, and at the same time attend this POA meeting.
The Commissioner of Police River State Command, who received Bolanta in his office, commends effort of the Police Officers' Wives Association and urges wives of officers not to relent in their role in keeping the family while the officers are at work.
Meanwhile, we have our children, our blessed children, relations, dependents that are with us. While we are out, struggling tirelessly for food to be placed on the table, the rear, that's the home front, certainly will be exposed. But we want to thank you sincerely for always being there to fill the vacuum that would have been created.
Teresa Emmanuel, a widow who lost her husband in active duty, appreciates the good gesture of the association to widows among them and pleads with the Nigeria police to absorb their children into the police force to help alleviate their suffering.
Coming to POA, they embrace us. They don't discriminate. They call us to come out. We share things in common. They welcome us into our midst. They gave us that joy that despite the death of our husband, there is hope for us. We still have a space in their midst. Thank you, sir. Oh, thanks, sir. Okay. We need this help. If she can help us, pick one of our children. Let me have 4 graduates. If one can go into Nigerian police, I'll be very grateful. All right. And look after the younger children.
You're still watching CoreTV News at 4. Do join us after the break for more stories.
Are you aware that the death percentage attributed to Lassa fever cases is currently put at 43.2%, a figure considered very high? Lassa fever, an acute viral illness characterized by high fever, muscle aches, mouth ulcers and bleeding in the skin, is harbored by rats and spread to humans via the urine and droppings of rats. To prevent Lassa fever, avoid any exposure with rodents, rats, as well as food and objects contaminated with rat secretions and excretions. Report all suspected cases of Lassa fever immediately to the nearest healthcare institution. Help prevent Lassa fever. This message is from the Federal Government of Nigeria.
Welcome. If you're just joining us, it's CoreTV News at 4. For more than news and information, do visit our social media platform, facebook.com/CoreTV News, our Twitter handle @CoreTV News NG. You could get more on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoreTV, Little Space and News. The Supreme Court has come up with reasons for its verdict, affirming the election of Nyesom Wike as the validly elected governor of Rivers State. Our judiciary correspondent Basilo Kafo reports that the crux of the judgment of the court is that the trial tribunal and the lower appeal court were wrongly swayed by INEC guideline on the use of card readers for the election.
The Apex Court panel of justices held that the tribunal was wrong to base its judgment on non-compliance on the use of card readers. The panel, while commending INEC for the introduction of the card readers, is saying the innovation cannot supersede the voter register. It observed that the extant law of the Federation provides for the use of voter register, but the card reader, irrespective of its importance, does not have a place in the extant law of the land. The court also advised INEC to approach the National Assembly for an amendment to incorporate the use of card readers. On the issue of allegation of violence and hijacking of ballot boxes, the court held that Dakuku Peter's side failed to bring witnesses from all the polling units to substantiate his claims.
At the point of delivering the ruling, the panel had changed. The chairman had been removed. Another chairman, the new chairman, Justice Ambusa, with respect to him, who was not part of the panel that held the application, presided at the delivery of this ruling. And that was one of the issues we raised, that we were not heard, because the panel that gave the ruling was not the panel that heard us. That's elementary law. And the Supreme Court said today, no, that was wrong. We were not heard.
The panel held that Amazon's challenger, Boyega Isiaka of the People's Democratic Party in the state, failed to prove his claim, as he called only 12 witnesses out of the 1,672 polling units.
They were categorical that the law has not changed. You see, if you want to prove a petition, you have to do it polling unit by polling unit. So they stated that the petitioners failed to prove the petition polling unit by polling unit. First of all, you don't place reliance on the card reader. They commended INEC for introducing the card reader, but they said for the card reader to take the place of the voter register, then you have to elevate it to the provision of the Electoral Act.
Witnesses were not called in from all the polling units to give evidences, says the court.
The federal government is making moves to curtail spending for service-wide votes by ministries, departments and agencies. The restriction is due to the abuse of the votes by the MDAs over the years. Correspondent Basi Aye reports that the Senate Committee on Finance wants prudent management of funds.
The Minister of the nation's economy is again appearing before the Senate Committee on Finance, whose members are asking questions on management of the huge sums domiciled within MDAs. And in her response, she says the votes are mere budget contingency to cover unforeseen circumstances, which has suffered abuse.
We need to know who manages the service-wide votes, who manages it. So if it's the Minister of Finance, without prejudice to what answers that the minister provides, so that we know that it falls entirely under the purview of this committee in terms of oversight. So we need to know who manages the service-wide votes. Yeah.
We don't think that's the right way to go. We think that actually service-wide votes should be last resort, that there's no other place where this money can be taken from and therefore be used service-wide vote. So what we're going to do is try and strengthen the controls. You're correct, it currently sits in the DG budgets. With the change and the creation of the budget ministry, I think we'll have to see where in the budget, budget and planning people have put that.
The committee is also seeking a proper monitoring and scrutiny mechanism for MDA's budgeting as part of fiscal discipline.
We've talked about efficiency unit here. I think that if expenditures are monitored and scrutinized, they will have an implication in terms of operating surpluses. If, for example, you found out that in the past, a particular corporation will generate 100 billion, and at the end will spend 101 billion, making it impossible for them to declare surpluses. Where to attack or to tackle is its budget, and then they spend the expenditures. You can scrutinize them. You can go through all that. So you still go ahead and you are not going against the law.
We've started the audits because we need to understand what are the actual costs of these agencies, and more importantly, what should the costs be? Because these agencies fall into two categories. Some are what we call fully funded. They receive salary, capital and overhead from the federal purse. and then they generate revenues. So the question is, those revenues, what exactly are you using them for? If we've paid all your salary, we gave you overhead, we gave you capital. So in those cases, maybe out of the independently generated revenue, up to 50% should be surplus.
The Ministry of Finance, in the course of the meeting, also gives insight into efforts at recovering monies allegedly paid to about 23,000 ghost workers under the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System, IPPIS. Members of the committee are calling for a full-scale investigation and appropriate sanctions on all those who are culpable. Basia Ye, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, is promising to pay all civil servants' salary arrears in the state. He made this known at an interactive session in Jos with a group of party faithful. Our Plateau State correspondent tells us more in this report presented from our studio.
Workers are currently lamenting in Plateau State owing to the fact that they received their last salary in November 2015. The governor calls on the people to support his administration, saying the economic hardship and subsequent inability to pay workers' salaries is not peculiar to the state.
I've been everywhere in Abuja. By God's grace, if we're able to get it this month, I will not have any arrears of salary again. I also made a commitment that I said, with your prayers in this regime, if God permits us, I will not want to keep civil servants with arrears of salary. Even if I'm not going to do any project, let them be paid their salaries.
Lalong adds that with the support of every resident in the state, plans are underway to ensure that alternative sources of revenue are exploited optimally. He says agriculture, which is labor-intensive, has been placed in the front burner of his administrative agenda, so as to eradicate poverty in the land.
One of the greatest assets we had in this state was the back farms, but that farm was sold. I am praying that we will get back that farm. I will send a team to go and attempt to bargain with him. I'm sure that team came back. I was also surprised when they met him. He said, look, for your governor, for everybody, take back your farm. Give me whatever you want to do.
Lalong has been accused severally of lacking the know-how in harnessing the abundant economic opportunities that are in the state. Despite having large expanse of arable lands and special crops, good weather and tourist attractions coupled with large deposits of solid minerals, Plateau State still depends heavily on the federal government's monthly allocation to pay up its civil servants.
The role of strategic communication is pivotal to nation building and national development, as the Buhari-led administration is gaining more attention in the area of collective responsibility from the government and the people. For proper implementation of government policies, the federal and state government should introduce an effective communication policy to carry citizens in line with its developmental goals. This is the opinion of some media stakeholders at an event on strategic communication. Our correspondent Akin Obake brings the report.
Media stakeholders all gathered at the lecture to shed light on the role of strategic communication in nation building and national development. The guest speaker points out the need for a collective participation by the government and the citizens in nation building.
Every citizen is an actor, an object of development. Everyone contributes to nation building or sadly serve as a drag, generating friction and causing a huge waste of scarce resources and energy. Perhaps only when citizens of the country have nurtured a true shared vision, transcending personal agendas, can the process of national development reach the tipping point for separated groups.
In similar opinion, the publisher of Business Hallmark opines that the government needs to build the image of Nigerians in attaining a collective national development.
We need to build up the image of the Nigerian person, to believe in his country, to love his country. But to do that, the government has to take the first step. It's not the citizen, it's the government to lead, to show the way, to educate the people, to mobilize the people. The work of information minister or commissioner, as has been said, is beyond merely informing the public.
In a bid to synchronize with the National Development Drive, the Commissioner for Trade and Investment in Akwa Ibom State stresses the role of the state government in empowering its indigents towards nation building.
And of course, once you stand out and with a dream, with an idea that is marketable, of course, the state will come in, to give you assistance in terms of either for further training, because as we speak, we are sending our people out for training. The other day we sent a group of people to Israel to be trained on mechanized agriculture. The other day we sent about 200 people to be trained in Abuja on the power sector. The other day we sent 1,000 youth to be trained on the ICT applications. So we are doing continuous training of our youth, especially those that have come up with clear dreams of what they want to do and what they want to become.
The call by media stakeholders to the government on introducing and implementing policies on strategic communication is believed to be coming at the right time, as the federal government seeks to introduce policies that will have an immediate effect on Nigerians. Akin Obake, CoreTV News, Lagos.
As the change mantra of the present administration continues to gain more support, teenagers have been advised to be change agents in reorientating their fellow teenagers to stay clear of all vices. An advocacy group known as Have You Heard, in a sensitization program for youth in Abuja, says this is a step in the right direction to safeguard the future generations of Nigeria. Correspondent Kozim Kasali has more in this report.
With the song, the gathering for a casual observer may pass for that of fun lovers. But on closer inspection, the veil is lifted and the true purpose of the gathering reveals itself. For the organizers of the gathering, it is a platform for teenagers to be the change agents to help in reducing the level of illicit relationship between teenagers. According to one of the lead speakers, it is also to sound a note of warning for teenagers as the Valentine's celebration approaches that love is not sex.
They need somebody to talk to. They need somebody to really help them, tell them what is right, what is wrong. Our society shies away from saying a lot of these things, but there is no harm in it. The more we say these things, the president right now is talking about anti-corruption. When do we start to talk about it? Which generation will start to talk it? Who will teach them what it is really to fight corruption? It starts from the mind.
For the principal of the school, the gathering will complement the efforts of the school management in putting in place good moral upbringing for the students.
We are going to imbibe this program into our mentoring program that we normally have with the students in order to help them, in order to direct them, and in order to make them, great ambassadors.
Some of the participants also say the experience is worthwhile and that they will be change agents to correct the ills of their generation.
I've learned that love is not sex, and I've learned that when I go out, I'll tell others that what they're doing is not good. And when I go out, as in I see things I heard here, all those things, I'll tell them about it, the infections. I'll tell them what leads to it, and I'll tell them not to do it because where they are going to is not good.
Very interesting because it teaches us a very lot of things, how to be healthy, how to be hygienic, and even some things that I do before through the teaching. I also learn how to stop them.
What I learned so far is that we are a message to other teenagers out there, but to teach them about how to relate. Teenage guy should come and tell us that I love you. We should know that what he wants is what he gets from us.
As these and other efforts aimed at changing the perception and thinking of the next generation on the issue of corruption and other vices continue, time will tell if they have indeed achieved the set objectives. Kozim Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
After this break, we bring you stories from outside Nigeria. Stay with us.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. And Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then news. CoreTV News, our 24-hour news station.
Welcome. On the foreign scene, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad says his armed forces would try to retake the entire country without hesitation. In an interview published after world powers agreed on a cessation of hostilities, Assad said the involvement of regional players in the conflict means that the solution will take a long time and will incur a heavy price. He also rejected UN's recent accusation that his regime is guilty of war crimes, describing the claims as politicized. Earlier this week, international investigators said that several thousand prisoners have been executed, beaten to death, or otherwise left to die during Syria's civil war. The head of the UN-backed Commission of Inquiry in Syria, Paulo Pinheiro, also disclosed that the mass scale of death of detainees suggests that the government of Syria is responsible for acts that amount to extermination as a crime against humanity. And pressure is increasing on Russia over civilian deaths in Syria, with France and the U.S. urging greater caution. French Prime Minister Manuel Valls and U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry are of the opinion that civilians are dying in Russian airstrikes. However, Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev says there is no evidence of bombing civilians, even though everyone is accusing them of this. And Somalia's Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab says it carried out a bomb attack on a plane that blew a huge hole in its fuselage earlier this month. Al-Shabaab claims the attack is to avenge the Western intelligence operations in Somalia. The Darlo Airlines Airbus 321 with 74 passengers on board made an emergency landing in the capital Mogadishu after the explosion occurred shortly after takeoff. And to the world of sport, World Football's governing body, FIFA, has dismissed with immediate effect Secretary General Jerome Valk. FIFA's Ethics Committee last week began formal proceedings against Valk after its investigators recommended a 9-year suspension over allegations of corruption. 55-year-old Valk had on 17 September 2015 been suspended from all footballing activities for his alleged involvement in a scheme to profit from the sale of World Cup tickets, while formal adjudicatory proceedings were opened against him on 7 January 2016 by the adjudicatory chamber of the FIFA Ethics Committee, chaired by Hans-Joachim Eckert. The duties of the Secretary General will continue to be assumed by the Acting Secretary General, Marcus Coterner. FIFA President Sepp Blatter and Vice President Michel Platini are serving as 8-year ban served on them in December following a FIFA ethics investigation. And also, Sunderland has improved their Premier League standings with a deserved victory over an uninspired Manchester United. Wabi Khazri put the strugglers ahead after 3 minutes with a free kick from the left that eluded everyone. Anthony Martial levelled after he clipped the ball over Vito Manon, one who had parried Joan Marta's shot. But the Blackcats won it when Lamont Cohn's header from Curz's corner went in via a deflection of keeper David De Gea. And it's a wrap on CoreTV News at 4. Thank you so very much for joining us. I am Omotayo. Hello.